Do you want to live a really long time, as functionally and as independent as possible over the course of a lot of years? I know I do. And a lot of you have the same goal. And so we're going to cover what I call the Peter Pan protocol, the PPP. Okay. And basically, this is going to be an exercise program that's focused on longevity, on lifespan, health span, and just making sure that, you live like Peter Pan, which, if you don't know, Peter Pan, he stays forever young. And so that's why I'm calling it the Peter Pan protocol. He doesn't age, right? And so if you want to be youthful and stay that way for a long period of time, this is going to be for you. And so we're going to cover the exact exercise program that I built for longevity, and this is backed by science. So we're going to go through it together, okay? Let's dive in. All right, so the Peter Pan protocol here, again, this is designed for primary goal, longevity, being as functional and independent as you can for a long period of time. As far as like who this is for in terms of training age, you're going to want to be at least intermediate. So if you're a super beginner, this may not be for you. Although I'll show you how we can change out some movements here that can be more helpful for you at your stage of your journey. And if you're advanced, you might want to just make this a little bit more challenging. Okay. Sessions per week is 5, but you'll see in a second, it actually won't be very overwhelming. 5 will be easy for you to do, in my opinion. And then the duration of each session will be less than an hour. Okay. An hour or less. On Monday, we're going to do a full body strength workout, which is going to be strength focused. On Tuesday, we're going to do a VO2 max training session. I'll explain what that means. On Wednesday, we're going to do a full body strength workout. Again, this time it's going to be hypertrophy focused. Hypertrophy meaning muscle growth. So stimulating muscle growth for people who are trying to grow it. And also for people who are trying just to maintain their muscle, this is going to be great for you as well. Okay. Like as you age. Thursday's going to be rest day. Friday is going to be zone 2 cardio. I'll go over that. And then Saturday's going to be another full body strength session, this time focused on stability, mobility, rotation, and unilateral. Okay. Sunday's going to be play, and that's going to be our structure throughout the week. Now, before I dive into this too, before I dive into the movements, the strategies we're going to use in here, you're going to have access to this. So you're going to get this whole program for free, and the link is going to be in the description here. So if you want to go through it, you want to use this program, you're going to be able to do so 100% free. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each day of the week, the movements in there, and kind of how I'm thinking about the training and structuring it for maximum results so that you can live a long time. Okay. Now, most people do not do longevity training properly because they're just not focused on the things that actually create longer lifespan. And so what are the things that create longer lifespan? Number one, we know that VO2 max is the best predictor of lifespan that we could possibly have. Okay. Being the top 25% for your age bracket in VO2 max is the best predictor we have of living a long period of time. And so we gotta be focusing on that, obviously, right? And then the second biggest predictors are strength focused, right? We have to be strong enough so that we can be capable and do things on our own. We need to be able to sit up and stand out of a chair, right? We need to be able to grab onto things. We need to make sure that we have enough muscle mass to protect our bones if we fall, and enough bone density, so that we don't break a hip. And so, I know these are things that are usually happening way later in life, but training for them starts now. And so this program is designed to address the things that we know based on science that lead to living a longer life. All right. So let's dive in. We're going to cover day 1 first. So I'm just going to slide this over and we're going to reveal day 1. Oh, I'm going to slide this up a little bit. Okay. And you're going to see day 1 all the way on the left. I'm actually going to click into this so we can look at it. But for day 1, oh no, I'm showing the whole program. It's covered again. Okay. For day 1, a couple of notes. For this whole program, you need to know what rated perceived exertion means. Rated perceived exertion is a scale of exertion that you use when you exercise. Okay. 0 would be like, I'm sitting here on this desk, I'm not exerting anything. And 10 would be, I'm going to die, I can't do another rep. I actually failed the last rep I tried. That's a 10. Okay. So 10 is what we call 0 reps in reserve. 9 would be 1 reps in reserve, which mean like, if you complete your set of a strength training exercise, you should be able to say to yourself, okay, I could have done 1 more before I failed. And then 8, RPE 8 would be 2 reps in reserve, right? So you have 2 reps in the tank before you fail. So on week 1 of this is a 4-week training program, by the way, which you can repeat, recycle, change the movements, etc. But this is 4 weeks that you can get. On this training cycle, so we have dumbbell reverse lunges from a riser for exercise number 1. That's basically a step back lunge, and you're starting with a little bit of your front foot elevated, so it makes it a little bit more challenging. If that is too challenging for you, you can just do a lunge, right? You can just do a step back lunge. You can modify this by taking off weight or adding weight. If you're holding dumbbells by your sides, you can just do body weight, or there's a whole host of ways you can modify this. We're doing 5 to 7 reps per leg on this, and we're going to use RPE 8. And so, you'll choose weights that get you to 2 reps in reserve between 5 and 7 reps. That's the idea, right? And then you record the number of reps and sets you do. The second exercise is a deficit push-up from plates. Now, this essentially means that you put your hands elevated on weight plates, and you can essentially get lower than you would if you were to just touch your hands and chest to the floor here, right? You'd be able to get a little bit extra depth and get a little bit more stretch in the pecs and a little bit more range of motion, so that we can make the movement a little bit more challenging, so you don't have to do so many reps to make it hard, right? And so you're going to do as many reps as you can until you get to RPE 8. For some people, that might be 10. Others might be 20. Others might be 30, right? You're going to go until you're at RPE 8, and then you're going to record your body weight, the number of reps, and then you're going to rest, okay? If you need to modify this, you can go from a deficit push-up to a push-up on your feet, to a push-up on your knees, to a push-up with your hands elevated, right? That's generally the progression that we want to use, or regression, I should say. The thing about exercise 1 and 2 is that they are what are called a superset. And so we do this to save you time, number one, but it's basically when you do exercise 1, so you can see it's A1, and then you'd rest a minute, and then you're going to do exercise 2, and then you're going to rest a minute, and then you're going to go back and do exercise 1 again. Right, so you basically flip back and forth so we can reduce the amount of rest that you take between sets, because you're using opposing muscle groups, right? So, the reverse lunges is going to attack you from doing push-ups too much. And so you can kind of combine those, okay? So we're doing this as a superset. Superset number 2 is a dumbbell Romanian deadlift and a supinated inverted barbell row. So, by the way, if you need videos of these, there's videos linked in the program. But basically in RDL, we're doing a bend pattern, right? So we're training our hamstrings, our lower back, we're training our glutes. It's a posterior chain exercise. And it's just really the same idea as the reverse lunge here in terms of the strategy that we're using, 5 to 7 reps. You use a load that can get you there between RPE 8, right around RPE 8. Supinated invert and row, you're basically lean back, your barbell's in a rack, and you are rowing yourself to the bar. So it's a body weight exercise. And so, yeah, you're gonna essentially row yourself to the exercise. And this is similar to the push-up. We're gonna do as many reps as you can with your body weight, and until you're at RP 8, right? And then you record the number of reps. Superset number 3 is a dumbbell seated press. So you're seating, right? And you're going to press dumbbells overhead. 5 to 7 reps here. Again, going to RPE 8. And then the last exercise here, a superset with the press, is a single arm farmer's carry. Okay, you're going to do 100 feet per arm. Again, videos are linked on this in these exercises when you see them in the app if you go to do this program. Okay. But the whole strategy here is we're focusing on strength, right? This is a very strength-focused day, right? We're also going to add a sled push and a sled pull as a finisher at the end, because moving stuff from point A to point B is important. You got to be able to do that. And just some grunt grind work is also super helpful for longevity, okay? And so you're going to push for 50 to 100 feet, and then you're going to pull for 50 to 100 feet. It's basically forward and then back, right? And you just repeat that for 5 to 10 minutes. You're going to get a cardiovascular stimulus from that and a strength stimulus, which is great, okay? That's day number 1. Let's move on to day number 2. Oh, keeps going away from me. Okay, day number 2. Day number 2 is our VO2 max training session, okay? And so for the VO2 max training session, we're going to do what's called the Norwegian 4x4 protocol. This is the most well-studied, well-researched protocol for increasing our VO2 max, which again is important because being in the top 25 is the best predictor of lifespan that we have, right? So you're going to want to improve it, okay? And the best way we know how is the 4x4. And so the 4x4 is basically you do 4 minutes of a cardiovascular exercise at the highest sustainable intensity that you can achieve. Meaning, if we have a 4-minute block of time that we're training in that set, we're going to go as hard as we can that we can maintain for that whole 4 minutes. Okay, so it's not going to be your all sprint pace by any means. It's the highest, fastest pace that you can maintain for that 4-minute period of time. Then you're going to do a recovery pedal if you're on a bike. You're going to do a recovery pedal for 4 minutes, and you basically repeat that for 4 total sets. Okay, so it's a 32-minute workout here. Okay, and so yeah, you want to choose movements that are cyclical in nature. So the air bike is great. A rower can work. Running can work. A spin bike can work. An elliptical can work. There's a lot of different implements that can work, but you need to be able to put a good amount of intensity into it. And it needs to be cardiovascular. And the limiter needs to be cardiovascular, right? So for me, I know that the Concept 2 bike or a spin bike is not the best for me because my legs get taxed the most if I go to do this protocol with the bike. The limiter ends up being my quads. It doesn't end up being my cardiovascular system. You want the limiter to be your cardiovascular system, not a muscle, right? The same thing can happen with rowing too. Like sometimes it might be your biceps that actually limit you from continuing to do the set, right? At its appropriate intensity. Maybe it's your back. And so you want to choose a movement that for you takes that out of the equation, right? We don't want muscular endurance to be part of the problem here. We want this to be a cardiovascular focus, okay? The other thing that I didn't mention is there is a daily walk included in every day. Like you have to get your steps in. We know that getting your steps in, getting 8,000 steps is like one of the best predictors of lifespan. So, the walk is in there just to help you, get out and keep you on track for that, okay? So that's day number 2 is a VO2 max training session. Really, that's what you need to know about is 4 minutes at a high intensity and then 4-minute recovery. Repeat 4 total times. Day number 3, we're on to our full body strength training hypertrophy focused day, right? Muscle, okay? Now, what we're doing here is a strategy that with a lot of these movements, it's called myo reps, okay? And so for myo reps, what you do, and we're looking at the seated cable fly here, we're going to do one set where on the first set, you're aiming for an RPE target. So on week 1, we're aiming for RPE 8. And we're going to basically choose a weight that we can get between 15 and 20 reps. Sometimes you can change the rep range, but for this purpose of this program, it's 15 to 20 reps. You're going to choose a weight that you think you can get about 15 to 20 reps before failing, okay? And then on set number 1, you're going to perform as many reps as you can until you're RPE 8, and you'll likely be in that 15 to 20 rep range, okay? So you're going to perform as many reps as you can until RPE 8. Then you record the weight and the number of reps that you did. So let's say I did, 15 pounds in each cable stack, and I did 15 reps, okay? Now, in sets 2 and 3, I'm not going to be able to do 15 reps again if I did that right, okay? If you really, go all the way to RPE 8, you're not going to be able to do the same number of reps again. If you can, it means you probably didn't go until RPE 8 on the first set, okay? And so what we're doing in sets 2 and 3 is something called a myo rep match set, which basically means that you use the same weight that you used for set 1, and we're going to do as many reps as we can for the first part of set 2, okay? So I start set 2, and in set 1, I got 15 reps, right? Set 2, I do it, and now I'm at RPE 8, but I'm only 8 reps in. I stop. I take a 5 to 10 second rest, and then I do it again. And maybe next time I get 7 reps, right? And that brings me all the way to 15. And that's my second set. So it's basically 2 mini sets within there with a short 5 to 10 second rest between there, right? And then for set 3, you do the same, but maybe set 3 actually takes you 3 mini sets to get to 15 reps, okay? That's what a myo rep match set is. You're matching the reps that you got on your first set. So we're doing that for cable flies. We're doing that for cable lateral raises, which is, out to the side. We're training our delts here. We're training our pecs in the fly. We're training our pull with a pull-up. The pull-up is not a myo rep max because you do not want to do that with super big compound exercises where there's a different component of fatigue that's going to come in. Like with a pull-up, your grip is going to get fatigued. With a hack squat machine, you're just going to be, if you try to do this, you're going to be cardiovascularly limited. We want it to be muscular limited for hypertrophy, right? So we're doing strict pull-ups, 8 to 12 reps here. Next, right, and we're aiming for RPE 8 on this as well. Now, to get to that 8 to 12 rep range, you may need to add weight. If you're super strong at pull-ups, you may need to do as a weighted pull-up. You may need to take away weight. If you are weak at pull-ups and you may need assistance, you can do bands, you can do an assisted pull-up machine. There's ways that you can get into that 8 to 12 rep range with still, completing the same exercise, okay? Exercise D is a half squat machine. You don't need to do a half squat. You can do a back squat. You can do a front squat. You can do a Smith machine squat. You can do a leg press. There's a lot. I just picked a half squat because I personally like the half squat. I think it's a great way to take some axial loading off as, we're probably not going to be doing back squats until we're 90, truthfully. That's just the reality. There's a lot of loading on the spine. And because the half squat leans you away, it takes a lot of that off. It takes a lot of the gravitational pressure that kind of pushes directly down the spine. So not that that's a bad thing. There is a good amount of axial loading to a degree is helpful. The half squat machine is just kind of a nice way to mix it up and make sure that we're not doing too much axial loading. Okay, and I think it's great. So we're gonna do 8 to 12 reps here, and you're gonna do 3 sets. Okay, and again you're going to RPE 8, and then you're gonna stop, and you record the number of reps and sets in load, I should say. And the seated hamstring, we're doing the myo rep match strategy again. Okay, so that's day number 3, full body training session, focused on hypertrophy. Day number 4, we're resting. Okay, so we're just going for a walk. Day number 5, this is actually your 4th training day, so it's called technically day 4. Okay, we're going to do a zone 2 training session. So for zone 2 is about 70 to 70% of your max heart rate. And so your max heart rate, generically speaking, there are better ways to do this, but for the ease of this video, it's 220 minus your age. You're going to get close if you do that, right? So an example here is if you're 45 years old, your max heart rate is going to be 220 minus 45, which is 175. Then to get your zone 2 heart rate, you do 0.75 times your max heart rate, 175, and you get 123. That's the bottom part of the zone 2 range. And then you do 0.77, which is 77% of your max heart rate, times 175, and you get 135. So it's the top end of your zone 2 range. So then your zone 2 is 123 to 135, and that's what you're trying to keep your heart rate at while you're on this elliptical for 45 to 60 minutes. It's just a really great way to not really tax your muscular system too much and still get a really good cardiovascular health benefit, right? Also, we know we burn a little bit more fat. We have a little bit more fat oxidation when we are in zone 2 compared to like going really hard in zone 3 and 4. So there's a lot of great health benefits to increasing endurance and just doing some lower intensity, long duration movement. Okay, that's what we're trying to do with zone 2. And it's great for our heart health and great for our cardiovascular function, which is really good for overall health in general. Okay, all right. I'm going to reveal the last day. I'm just going to move this thing away. Delete note. The last day is a full body strength training day. Again, this time focused on stability, mobility, and rotation. And so the first part is a mobility flow. Okay, we're going to do Spider-Mans with a thoracic rotation. We're going to do inchworms, tabletop, reverse planks, dynamic hip flexor stretch, and yoga push-ups. Okay, those are what we're going to do. Then we're going to do superset strategy again for our strength training exercise. So you're basically, for this mobility flow, you're just going to cycle through this for 10 minutes. And the idea here is like, one of the main things that stops people from having great health span is they lose their mobility, right? And it also makes them get more injured more frequently if they don't have good joint mobility and flexibility. And so, a 10-minute flow like this once, twice, 3 times a week can be really helpful just to maintain, the integrity of our joints. And so I like the tabletop reverse plank because it makes sure we stretch out the pec and gets, full range of motion for our shoulder, going back. And then inchworms, they help us get a little bit of hamstring flexibility, practice the bending pattern. Thoracic rotation, gives us that rotational piece of what our spine is supposed to do. Right? Our spine is supposed to be able to rotate both directions. And then the hip flexor stretch, a lot of people are sitting all day. And so, it is helpful for us to stretch our hip flexors and get a little bit of dynamic movement in there. Okay, and the yoga push-up just kind of takes us through a whole flow of getting range of motion at our shoulders. We get shoulder flexion, we get thoracic extension. There's a whole host of different movement patterns that we get in that. So we're really attacking as many as we can in that mobility flow. Okay, then we get into our superset exercises that are designed for mobility and stability, right? And so, and I'll add also, there's a lot of unilateral movements in this day because a lot in life we're doing most of the things on one foot, right? When we're walking, when we're stepping side to side, right? We need to have good balance so that we don't fall. And so the lateral box setup is great at that. It also trains muscles that, in the gym, most of the exercises we're doing are straight forward and back or straight up and down. And we don't get the other planes of movement that are really important for us, okay, functionally. And so the goblet box step up is a lateral box up onto a box. You're going to step up onto a box. Goblet just means you're holding the weight in front of you. And then you step down, okay? And you control the weight all the way down, okay? So you're going to do 8 to 10 reps per leg. RPE again. Now we're going to superset that with a side plank. So the side plank rotation is you're on in a plank on your side, and you're going through a rotation with the other arm, right? So again, you'll see kind of the video when you go to do this. But the side plank rotation is a really great exercise for not only building core strength and stability, but also bringing our core through a dynamic range of motion while we do that, right? And that rotation, and again, is helpful to train, okay? We don't do it very often in most of the exercises we do. We're trying to almost remain stable. This is counterintuitive to that. The second superset is a dumbbell single leg Romanian deadlift and a lateral skater jump. And so a skater jump is essentially you're jumping side to side. So it's practicing lateral movement again and absorbing force, which is really important because a lot of people get hurt going downstairs, for example, because they can't absorb impact. And so this trains us to absorb more impact, right, at the knee and at the hip. Hey, and almost helps you stop momentum. Most, for example, ACL tears are because we cannot stop our momentum. And so, training lateral skater jumps can kind of strengthen the joint in the joints and the integrity of the tendons and ligaments in our hips and knees. Okay. So the single leg RDL is a stability, balance, and hamstring glute exercise, which is great, combined with the lateral skater jump. Okay. And then we have the high to low oblique raise. This is core rotation. Again, your core is designed to help you move objects like that. We are designed to move, in a rotational plane, and we don't practice it very much. So this just helps to kind of strengthen that rotational plane. For you golfers out there, or any, paddle tennis, pickleball, like that rotational plane would be helpful for you to train too if you want to do those things for a long period of time. And the cable reverse fly is our upper back exercises, upper back and kind of behind the shoulder exercise. We hit with a reverse fly, but a lot of times we're doing everything like in the forward, and we don't do a lot going back. And so, we get a little bit of an imbalance there, but your rotator cuff and the backside of your shoulders are really important, just keeping shoulder function healthy. Okay. And the last thing here is actually sprint, because we didn't talk about this. From a cardiovascular perspective, we did our like medium duration intervals with the VO2 max training. We did our long duration, low intensity movement, lower intensity movement with the zone 2. But then we have to kind of fill in the gaps of that high intensity, really high intensity, short duration. And you want to do that with some version of a sprint. You don't have to do this running, but you want to go 10 seconds all out on something. It could be a bike. It could be running if you're capable and you're not at risk of injury and you've been running recently. It could be a rower. Personally, I like the assault bike and the rower the best for this, because I think you can put a lot of intensity into it, when you're doing something that's full body effort. And so, yeah, run, bike, and row are usually your best main options, but you're going to go all out for 10 seconds, and then you just rest and walk for a minute and 50 seconds. It's going to feel like you're doing nothing for the first one, and that's okay. You shouldn't feel like you're working super hard in a sprint. You should feel like you are doing something very aggressively for a short period of time, and you're putting a lot of effort into that, but it's not going to feel like, you did a whole lot of work, but you did, okay? Because we lose these fast twitch muscle fibers as we age, and we have to do something aggressive, explosive, and sprint-like to hold on to them, okay? And so, yeah, we're going to sprint, okay? And then the last day is just hiking, playing, doing something that you enjoy. It's your favorite physical activity for 60 minutes to an hour. 60 to 90 minutes, really, right? That's what we want to shoot for, okay? So this is the training week, and it's not that much when you consider really it's like, 3 days in the gym. A lot of people have these things at home that they can do for 30 minutes each day, and then you're really rocking and rolling. I mean, this is the whole training program. What we do in the next few weeks is something called progressive overload. And so we're either going to add a weight, we're going to add reps, we're going to add your rate of perceived exertion starts at 8. You can see in week 2 what we did basically was we added reps for most of the things. In week 3, we're going to increase the RPE to 9. And then in week 4, we increase the weight on each set. Okay. And that's the whole training program. So that is the Peter Pan protocol. It is a strategy where we're trying to touch all the bases. We're not specializing in anything specifically. We're not trying specifically to go all in on strength, or all in on muscle hypertrophy and muscle growth, or all in on, VO2 max. We're getting a well-rounded approach here to fitness, which is going to help you, again, live a very long time. Now, there is a time and a place for doing very specialized programs, right? You're not, if your goal is to, be functional and independent as long as possible, you may need to bias your training toward one thing or another. And so I'm going to come up with more of these and show you different training programs for different purposes. But this is for someone who is, trying to bring everything up in terms of their fitness and health, slowly, gradually over a long period of time. And we're not in a rush. We're not in a rush to do anything, one thing specifically. Sometimes you will be in a rush. If you have a massive deficit in strength, for example, or you have a massive deficit and your strength is great, but your VO2 max is super low and your goal is longevity, you're going to want to bias things, right? It only makes sense to do that. But this is for someone who's generally more well-rounded and, doesn't have any gaping holes, okay? So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you want access to this program, it's in the link in the description. You can go through and sign up. It'll be free, and you can start working on your longevity on the Peter Pan protocol yourself. Hope you found this helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.